the Catholic Channel Sunday, 7:30 a.m., 9 a.m., or 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Personally Speaking.
The Catholic Channel, SiriusXM 129 presents Sounds from the Spires with Dr. Jennifer Pascual, Music Director of St. Patrick's Cathedral.
And you're listening to Sounds from the Spires on the Catholic Channel of SiriusXM 129. And today I have a very special guest right here in my office. It's Dr. Alfred Cresci, who is a musician and an educator and is in New York on vacation. Are you on vacation this week?
Hi, just visiting from New Jersey.
Okay.
Get a chance to come in every now and then, see some shows, eat in some nice restaurants, listen to music.
And taking your lovely wife out for a day and evening on the town?
Absolutely. Elizabeth is the pride and joy of my life.
So Dr. Al has been on this program before, and he's been a friend for a long time. Gosh, well over 12 to 15 years now, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah.
We met at a dedicatory recital at St. Teresa's Church in Staten Island.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. And you're back in Staten Island now at Our Lady of Pity?
Our Lady of Pity, terrific parish, fantastic people. It's in the Bull's Head section of Staten Island. Father John Robluski is the pastor. Joanne Caleri is the parish manager. Fantastic people that work there. I've been there for a little over a year now, but I was subbing there for about a year before that. Yeah. And the people there just welcome me with open arms, and we do some really fantastic liturgies there, and it's a fantastic place.
Nice.
It's, by all means, it's my favorite place. The best job I've ever had.
That's nice. Isn't that nice to say you feel like you belong, and I feel like I'm a member of this parish? And
it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. And why is the area called Bull's Head?
Well, there's so many different sections in Staten Island, and I don't really know the origin of the name, but I know that's the section that it's in. It's on Richmond Avenue.
Okay.
A very busy place. There's a lot of great shopping, great restaurants there. So,
but you're originally from Brooklyn, right? You were born in Brooklyn?
I was born in Brooklyn, and I played at Holy Innocents Church for 42 years.
Yeah.
And the story, very interesting story. I retired from there in 2018, and I figured I've been doing this for so long, directing choirs, playing the organ, going through the whole liturgical year. Well, maybe I'll just sub for a while. And I remember one Sunday, about 6 months after that, my wife Elizabeth and I went to Mass in the area from where we live in central New Jersey. We got back in the car, and I said, "Can I talk to you about something?" And she said, "Yeah, I already know. You want to go back to work. You miss it." And so here I am.
Yeah. What's the commute for you like between Central Jersey and Staten Island?
Not bad. It's about, if there is no traffic, it's about 30 minutes. The only challenge that could be a challenge is the outer bridge. If there's an accident on the outer bridge, that's a problem. So I always leave extra early, anticipating there could be a problem.
Right. So what is your ministry there like at Our Lady of Pity? How many masses do you play? How big is the congregation? What are your
The congregation is very crowded. We seat 750. Not that we get 750 at every Mass, but we'll get 400 or 500 at every Mass. Our Easter Vigil was wall to wall.
Oh, good.
I would say close to 800 people. It was really something. I play the 5 o'clock Mass on Saturday and the 10:30 and the new Mass on Sunday. And I have a small choir at the 10:30 Mass. And that's challenging because just like your choir here at the Cathedral, we were out of commission during the pandemic.
Right.
And they were between music directors for a while, and there was no choir. So now I'm starting the choir up again. Some of the original members moved away.
Sure.
So in many ways, we're starting from scratch, but they're coming along. We had a beautiful rehearsal last night. They sounded terrific. So we're we're building as we go along.
You rehearse on Sunday nights?
On Monday evenings.
Oh, yesterday was Monday, wasn't it?
Yes,
Sorry. We're recording on a Tuesday today, and Al is in my office here at St. Patrick's Cathedral. So good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, we were talking the last time we saw each other 5 years ago.
It was June 2019. It was the last time I was on the show here.
Yeah, at the studios. We're still not back at the studios. Yes. So it's really great to have you and to catch up with you and see how things are going and that you're back to work at a church again.
And we stay in contact.
Of course, through Facebook messaging.
All the time.
Yeah. It is Easter season, so happy Easter.
Happy Easter to you.
And let's take a little listen to some church music, of course, since this is Sounds from the Spires. This is Jesus Christ is Risen Today, the recessional hymn from Al's Easter Vigil at Our Lady of Pity Church in Staten Island, where he is the music director and director of liturgy as well, right?
Director of liturgy, director of choir.
Okay. And you just listened to Jesus Christ is Risen Today, which was the recessional hymn at Our Lady of Pity Church in Staten Island, where our guest today, Dr. Al Cresci, is the director of music and director of liturgy. You're listening to Sounds from the Spires on the Catholic channel of SiriusXM 129. I'm Dr. Jennifer Pascual, your host, and Dr. Al is our guest here today on Sounds from the Spires. And you're an organist and a singer as well. Your lovely voice. I don't remember hearing your voice before, but in looking for recordings of you on YouTube, a very nice leadership and lovely voice. What is the instrument at Our Lady of Pity?
Well, that's very interesting because I've often thought of myself as a pipe organ, almost bigot. I mean, it's pipe organ or it's nothing. Uh-huh. But this particular organ, and it's an Allen organ. It's an older model. It's an MDS 65. It emulates at least 50 ranks. But what's really interesting about it is whoever did the wiring in the church for the speakers, they placed all the divisions together, as you would imagine, the same as a pipe organ. And with the acoustics, the natural acoustics in the building, it has a fantastic sound. And the first time I played it, I was covering for my friend Elena Brandt, who used to be the organist there. I know you know Elena. And I covered a funeral. And the first time I had a chance to play it, I just thought it had just a fantastic, rich orchestral sound, almost like a Skinner organ. And I love playing it. And it's easy for me to get around the organ. With the stops that they have, I can variate the sounds quite easily, and I just love playing it. So I am no longer boxed boxed into pipe organs. I now am much more open about electronic organs. I have an electronic organ at home, too. I have a Rogers, which is a great practice organ. But this Allen organ sounds incredibly beautiful in the building.
Good, good. And the people sing at the church?
They sing. I wouldn't say they sing out very loudly, but they do try. And I love when I hear them singing behind me. I'm also the cantor, so I sing right at the organ. I have a microphone that's built in, and I love hearing them sing behind me. It inspires me. I hope I inspire them, but they certainly inspire me.
Of course, yeah. And for Easter, you had 2 trumpet players.
2 trumpets and a timpanist. Father John approached me, I believe it was the 4th Sunday of Lent, and he said, Al, I would just love to have two trumpets and a timpanist. And I said, well, I'll try my best, Father, because that is a little bit late in the...
Yes, to be finding someone.
It is a little late to be looking for somebody. And I went through several names and made some contacts with some other organists.
That's right, you contacted me.
I contacted you, too. And I wasn't going to pull one of your instrumentalists away from the great St. Patrick's Cathedral, but... I finally found 3 people, and they did a beautiful job, and they were great to work with. And the interesting thing about that was we started rehearsing that afternoon around 5:30. We hadn't opened the church yet, and we finished up at about 5 minutes before the program. But then it flowed beautifully.
Yeah, you all sounded great together.
Thank you.
Dr. Al Cresci is our guest today here on Sounds from the Spires, and he is in my office. We are doing this right at my desk through a phone, through nice microphones that my husband bought for me one Christmas. And so we're talking with him and listening to some of the music that he makes. I mentioned earlier that Al is also a singer, so we'll listen to him singing a little bit of Taste and See, the Goodness of the Lord, Psalm 34 by Jeff Ostrowski.
That motto, faith, seeking, understanding, that's actually how we define theology. We have faith that we believe that's a gift. It's given to us even at our very baptism. But then as we grow up, we want to understand when we say, well, I believe in one God, there's 3 persons, okay? What does that mean? That's theology. When we dig into and learn more about what our faith teaches.
The Busted Halo Show with Father Dave Dwyer. Weekdays live at 6 p.m. East, 3 West on the Catholic Channel, SiriusXM 129.
Howdy, I'm Catherine Whitaker, and I want you to take a moment and remember someone you love who is no longer with you. Over the weekend, my college alma mater hosted its annual remembrance ceremony, Muster, which honors the life of all alumni who have passed in the last year. Candles are lit, the roll call begins, and attendees answer a solemn here. I wonder how many times we allow ourselves to pause, take a deep breath, and remember people in our lives who have died. It's a tender thing to hold space for someone you love, to allow yourself to reflect on a happy memory, let it hurt a little bit that they're gone, and then find gratitude that you get to continue to love them. May we always be grateful for people who have loved us well and who we get to honor in big and small ways every day. For more information on how you can apply our big family tips to any season of your own life, follow me on Instagram at Catherine Whitaker TX or at CatherineWhitaker.net.
Hey, Kelly. I love your Kelly Clarkson Connection channel.
All right. Thank you so much for listening.
The mix is eclectic.
I love music, and I just want to celebrate all of it with you.
It's my favorite now.
Is it worth it? Let me work it.
It is perfect.
This is my heartbeat. The Kelly Clarkson Connection, y'all.
I freaking love your channel.
Oh my God.
Channel 12 and on the SiriusXM app.
And you just listened to the Vierne Berceuse at Al's home, Dr. Al Cresci's home. And just before the break, we listened to Taste and See. It was Dr. Al playing and singing the Responsorial Psalm by Jeff Ostrowski. And you're listening to Sounds from the Spires on the Catholic channel of SiriusXM 129. I'm Dr. Jennifer Pascual, your host, and Dr. Al Cresci is our guest today, and he is here in my office. And which came first for you, Al? Was it singing or playing? Piano or organ?
Actually, it was clarinet.
Clarinet, okay.
My father played the clarinet in the Army down in Panama, and he always said that probably saved his life, that he was a very good clarinetist, saved his life because it kept him out of combat. And he would teach me the clarinet, and of course I was attending Immaculate Heart of Mary Church in Brooklyn at the time, and I would come home, and I remember one of the first things I played on the clarinet was a hymn that I heard at church. Trying to play it anyway. But the interesting story, I may have said this 5 years ago when I was on the program, we had moved to Holy Innocents Parish in November of '64. And I was not happy about moving. I was leaving my friends back behind and all of that. And my mother said, very nicely, a nice way of saying it, why don't you take a walk in the neighborhood? Go visit the church that you're going to be attending and the school that you will be attending, which was a nice way of saying, get out of the house, you're driving me crazy. So we lived on Westminster Road, which is East 12th Street in Brooklyn. And I walked over to East 17th and Beverly Road, and I saw Holy Innocents for the first time. And I walked in the church, and I think it was November the 2nd. There was probably an All Souls Mass going on. And I heard the organist, Mr. Michael Green, and he became my idol. I walked in the back of the church, heard him play this beautiful E.M. Skinner organ, and 5 minutes, and I just fell in love with it. And I said to myself, I would give anything to play this organ. It was 5 minutes that was life-changing. And I walked out of the church. He used to run these 4:30 recitals on Sunday afternoons. And 50, 75 people would come to it every week. I was the only kid. Parked my bicycle outside the church, went in, listened to him play, and I just never forgot it. And who knew I was going to be the music director there and sit in his chair someday and get the organ restored.
That's
too.
right.
We had the organ restored through a grant that I had written, and that 5 minutes changed my whole life.
And you had no regrets about leaving your old neighborhood?
No.
Yeah, that's amazing. You did a lot for that parish, and it is an amazing story how you just moved from another neighborhood into this neighborhood, and then eventually you became the music director for 42 years. That's great. Yeah. And so church, though, is not your main thing. You have your doctorate in education, and you're retired from that, correct?
Right.
Yeah. And so where did you use that degree? And I assume you were principals in different locations and teacher, of course.
Yeah, I taught for some Catholic schools in the Diocese of Brooklyn. I taught in Hillsborough, New Jersey. And then from there, I was an administrator in Hillsborough. And then I went to Perth Amboy.
Okay.
And I was there for 17 years in 2 different middle schools. And hats off to all educators, teachers, principals. It's an incredibly difficult job. Yeah. And not always as rewarding as people think. There's so many moving parts, and you have to be on top of everything.
Right.
And it's very, very difficult. And it's getting more difficult every day. Yeah. I've been out of it for 10 years now. But I do stay in contact with some people that, friends of mine, a couple of people that I had hired who are now principals. And they tell me, wow, it was so much more difficult than what I thought it was. You made it look easy. I used to hear that all the time.
What was your specialty in teaching? What subjects?
Mathematics and computer science.
So
related to music.
Yes, exactly. You're sitting here calculating the number of minutes of your pieces and making sure that we have the right amount for the program. So math and physics?
No, computer
Oh, sorry,
science.
math and computer science. And so you're a brainy guy.
I do okay.
Well, that goes hand in hand, the math and the music and the computer. So, yeah. What kind of advice would you give to anybody today who's looking to go into education?
I'd say be in it for the right reason. Be in it because you really want to help children learn. You want to change some lives, make the world better. But be ready for bumps in the road.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a friend of mine that really wanted to teach but never did. And I think he kind of thinks the children just fold their hands and say good morning and they can't wait to learn. And that's not always the case.
Right.
So you have to be a motivator.
Sure.
And a self-starter. Much like working in a church as a music director. You have to be a motivator. You have to be organized. You have to be a self-starter.
Yeah.
The similarities there are really interesting.
Sure. And you've excelled in both yourself. Yeah. Wonderful. And what would you say, Al, what was the highlight of your whole education experience? Probably a hard question.
I have it. We ran a program that highlighted the Challenger, and I don't want to say the Challenger explosion of 1986. The lessons taught to us by Krista McAuliffe. And our basic book was a book written by her mother, Grace Corrigan, who we had at the school. And she visited the school, and we ran an interdisciplinary program: math, language arts, science, music, geometry, that portion especially, and all related to space exploration and Krista's message. That was by far, and it was school-wide. So we had 1,200 children involved with this. And it was just interesting. The one thing I remember, I had put together a video library, and the children in a classroom were watching Grace Corrigan on Oprah Winfrey's talk show. And then the door opened, and Grace walked in.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah, that was a fun time. The children were just amazed by it.
Yeah.
And there were no discipline problems that day.
Oh, good.
No, everybody was into it. I would say educationally that was the best project I ever undertook.
Yeah. That's good. And what would you say was your most challenging or difficult event or period?
There was one time in one of the buildings I was in, somebody from the outside called in a bomb scare.
Oh, gosh.
So I had to make a decision to stay in school or evacuate the building. And I remember that I got we have security guards. So I got all the security guards together, and I asked them, is that did the voice sound like a child or an adult? And they said, definitely an adult. So then I went over and I shut off the PA system, said, do not use walkie-talkies because that type of thing, if there is a bomb, could set it off. Had to evacuate the building, and in came the bomb-sniffing dogs from Middlesex County. And it was frightening. It turned out to be nothing. But you want to take the chance?
Of course.
I'm not taking the chance. And by the time I got home, it was already on the local radio station. I don't know how they heard about it, but they did.
Wow. So you could write a book about all of your experiences.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we're talking with Dr. Al Cresci here on Sounds from the Spires on the Catholic channel of SiriusXM 129. Let's listen to some more music. This is, and we'll talk about his compositional life after the break, but this is Crucifixion, which Al had recorded privately at one location, but he also played them publicly for Tenebrae preludes this year at Our Lady of Pity during Lent. And so this is Al's Crucifixion.
How do we integrate soul and body? This week, we learn about Soulcore, a ministry that does just that. Danny and Antonia Torchia return to tell us about rearing rebels in the domestic church. Billy has a question about priests and artificial intelligence. And we reconnect with singer-songwriter Danielle Savard, who has a new album, Warfare. That's the Salt and Night Hour, every Saturday at 3 and 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific, and Sundays at 12 noon East, 9 a.m. Pacific.
The artists the rest of the world will be talking about in months are on SiriusXM's Next Wave concert series. And now, hear exclusive performances from the top rising stars in rock, R&B, hip-hop, and more. Tap into Who's Next, the Next Wave Concert Series Volume 7, now at the all-new SiriusXM app. Just search Next Wave.
Howdy, I'm Catherine Whitaker, and I want you to take a moment and remember someone you love who is no longer with you. Over the weekend, my college alma mater hosted its annual remembrance ceremony, Muster, which honors the life of all alumni who have passed in the last year. Candles are lit, the roll call begins, and attendees answer a solemn here. I wonder how many times we allow ourselves to pause, take a deep breath, and remember people in our lives who have died. It's a tender thing to hold space for someone you love, to allow yourself to reflect on a happy memory, let it hurt a little bit that they're gone, and then find gratitude that you get to continue to love them. May we always be grateful for people who have loved us well and who we get to honor in big and small ways every day. For more information on how you can apply our big family tips to any season of your own life, follow me on Instagram at Catherine Whitaker TX or at CatherineWhitaker.net.
The Katie McGrady Show.
What's happening in our society more and more is that because we only ever listen to things that affirm our ideas, we only follow people online that tell us what we want to hear, there's always another side. There's always another position. There's always another perspective. My responsibility is not necessarily to change that person's mind, but it is my responsibility to treat them with dignity and respect when I hear it.
The Katie McGrady Show, 2 p.m. East, 11 a.m. West, only on the Catholic Channel, SiriusXM 129.
We just listened to Walk to Worship, composed and performed by Dr. Al Cresci, our guest today here on Sounds from the Spires on the Catholic channel SiriusXM 129. And just before the break, we listened to his Crucifixion. And I'm Dr. Jennifer Pascual, your host. Those were two preludes that Dr. Al had performed at Tenebrae as Tenebrae preludes at Our Lady of Pity, where he serves as the music director and director of liturgy. But what we've listened to are non-noisy tracks that Al had graciously recorded outside of the Tenebrae service. Tell us about these compositions. These are not your first compositions, are they?
No, I put together an improv based on at that first Eucharist.
Okay.
Probably my all-time favorite hymn. For Tenebrae prelude at Holy Innocents and back in 2018. This piece, Crucifixion, it really came from playing at the weekly stations of the cross, and we get a very good crowd at that every Friday. And I was thinking about the path that Jesus followed to his crucifixion. And I thought it would be interesting to try to come up with a piece that, if you close your eyes and walk Jesus's steps, that piece might mirror that path. So I wanted it to be in minor keys. And I knew what I wanted to do with it. I started in one key and went up to a higher key. And I had a recurring theme, which the recurring theme kind of stood for the 3 times that Jesus fell. And I explained to the people that night that I knew what I wanted to do musically. Chords, there was an arpeggio in there somewhere. But once we're getting past the actual music, I closed my eyes and just thought of the Stations of the Cross and came up with that improv. When I was finished with it, I played around with it a little bit and came up with the final product that you just heard. And the people loved it. I had to make recordings for people. They wanted to bring it home and listen to it. And somebody said, well, we have a Deacon Mike Venditto, terrific guy, and his wife, Susan. And she said to me, you have to play this next year. And I said, okay, I'll see if I can keep it in my head, because I didn't write it down. It's an improv. So I explained to the people that there's really 2 parts of an improv. There's the music end, and then there's the inspiration end. And sometimes you just have to close your eyes and just let your fingers go and don't be inhibited. And I love doing that. I'm not the greatest improv person in the world, but sometimes I just get inspired and it comes to me. And I think that was one of those times.
Have you written it down since?
No, but what I have done is I started to just write what chords I use, and when I modulated to the next key, and then how I ended it, and what's a couple of the stops that I used. So I haven't written it down note for note, but I did write down kind of what I did, because I'd like to come up with it again next year.
Nice. And then we also listened to Walk to Worship, and that one is also not written down? Is that an improv as well?
Yeah, that was an improv. I put that together for somebody's wedding. And I always remembered what I did, and I just thought it would be fun. I've played it for First Communions, and the evening at Tenebrae, Father John came in from the sacristy and sat at the presider's chair, and it just worked perfectly. I was just so happy that came out, and it got a little louder as he got to the chair, and he got a kick out of it, and I did too.
Oh, that's nice that you are able to give and share your talents like that with your parish. Do you find that you spend more time with music or liturgy, since you're both?
I spend more time with the music. I'll also mention that I'll give a shout out to Robert Whalen. He's the sacristan. I have never met a sacristan like him. He knows liturgy more than most people. And he even understands organs. He's not an organist, but he's actually suggested some registrations that I used at Christmas. He said, we had a guest vocalist singing... He said, why don't you use the bells for this, and so forth. And I said, I like that. I'm going to use that. So he would even suggest registrations. I've never met somebody like that. All Holy Night is what you say. Yeah. And I have a nice arrangement to that that's similar to what you do here.
Oh, nice. That's great that you have such great camaraderie with the folks at your parish. It's not always the case.
It's very unique.
Yeah. Wonderful. And so it's great to listen to Al's improvisations as well as live liturgy. And so let's take a listen now to a psalm. This is by Gordon Young, but it's an instrumental psalm.
Right.
So Gordon Young was a composer and organist as well, and this is his psalm, which Al also performed at the Tenebrae service at Our Lady of Pity. And you just listened to Psalm by Gordon Young, and that was performed at the Tenebrae at Our Lady of Pity in Staten Island. And you're listening to Sounds from the Spires on the Catholic channel of SiriusXM 129. I'm Dr. Jennifer Pascual, your host, and Dr. Al Cresci is our guest. And we're talking about his life coming back to the church after retirement. And he's at Our Lady of Pity Church now in Staten Island, and spent his life also as a church musician and an educator and administrator. So that's double work. That's like 2 full-time jobs.
I've worked 7 out of 7 days for 38 years.
So
just like you work every day.
You never had a day off? Oh.
Really, I used to circle, well, look at that, 3 months from now, next Tuesday, I have a day off.
Oh, gosh, that's a lot. And then on top of that, when you were in Brooklyn, you had the organ renovated at that parish, and so you wrote a grant, and you're into this fundraising thing as well for churches. Before we got together, you mentioned that you might want to say something about fundraising for churches or for organs or whatnot, because I know there are a lot of people who would love to do fundraising, but they don't know how.
Writing grants is an art, and I never took a course in it. I learned as I went along. And with the grant at Holy Innocents, the E.M. Skinner organ that is there, that organ was falling apart. Mm-hmm. There's 17 couplers on that organ, and I used to use about 12 or 13 of them to play a service. Yeah. Which, if you're an organist, you know that that's ridiculous. You don't need all of that. But I did because there were so many dead notes.
Right.
So I found through the Organ Historical Society, I heard of this wonderful organization called the Joseph G. Bradley Charitable Foundation, whose main function in life is to restore, of all things, Skinner organs, although they would consider other brands of organs as well. And I got in contact with them, but it was not an easy task. Mm-hmm. When you're writing a grant, I look at writing grants. There's two different styles. One's a free-form style where you can direct it any way that you want to go with it, and the other is more structured. For the Bradley Foundation, it's really free-form, but what I always focus on are the history of the instrument, mm-hmm. the history of the parish, the people that lived there when the parish was open, right up to the present, the people that live there now, what's going on in the church now, what kinds of liturgies do they have, how are you going to use the organ if it's restored? Mm-hmm. Obviously, you want to use it for liturgies, right. But you also want to be able to open it up to the community. Mm-hmm. So maybe have individuals who are associated with, let's say, the American Guild of Organists come in and concertize this organ and get it out there. Use the instrument. That's what you really want to focus on. So whether it's the Bradley Foundation or it's your local representative that wants to make the community a better place, if it's a structured type of a grant, mm-hmm. then you really have to follow the instructions carefully. You can't digress from what they're asking for, because if you digress or you go off on tangents, my experience is they'll take your application and just toss it, because most of these grants are very competitive. Sure. And I've been very fortunate. I've had a lot of successes. And then the other part is public relations. Mm-hmm. If you have either a public relations firm or you do your own public relations, the interesting thing about Holy Innocents was the $360,000 grant for the Skinner turned into $1.1 million for restoring the roof, the murals in the church, various other artifacts. It was the Skinner organ made that possible, mm-hmm. but the PR was the vehicle to go from the organ to the rest of the building. But that was a 12-year commitment on my part.
That's a lot of work. That's a full-time job.
That's a full-time job.
In addition to being the church musician and in addition to being an administrator. And
that was educator. My old parish, and even though I'm not there anymore, I still love that church. Sure. I want them to do well.
That was your home.
Right.
Well, Dr. Al, it's been great talking to you and catching up with you after 4 or 5 years now. And I don't want to keep you any longer because I know your lovely wife is waiting for you. You're having a day and an evening here in New York. So I hope that you both have a great time today.
Thank you.
Any last words and maybe advice for people who want to be in church music?
Love it. Absolutely love it. Uh-huh. It's the best thing I ever got into. I found out that I am a total failure in retirement. It didn't even last a year and a half. I get up every Sunday, and those people at Our Lady of Pity, they inspire me every time I walk in the building. I love being there. I love working with Father John and Monsignor Greg Luspigiello, who is very much associated with the Cathedral. I just love being there, and my advice to budding organists is practice, learn liturgy, and love what you do. And if you love what you do, the rest will follow.
Yeah, that's really great advice. And it's nice to hear such a positive message from somebody who's been doing this for a long time. Because, you talk to some people, it's like, oh, I'm so ready to retire, or I'm burned out. But, I mean, you came out of retirement and you love it.
I'm going to do it until the good Lord says you're not doing it anymore.
Yeah. That's great. It's really nice to hear something so refreshing, Al. So thank you for that. So Dr. Al Cresci has been our guest today here on Sounds from the Spires. So thank you to Al, and thank you to Robert for editing. And we'll finish out the hour by listening to Give the Glory. This is by Ken Canedo and Bob Hurd. This was kind of a meditation just before the processional at the Easter Vigil at Our Lady of Pity in Staten Island. Thank you all, and stay tuned next week for Sounds from the Spires on the Catholic channel of SiriusXM 129. Have a great week.
Hallelujah,
Get closer to exclusive talk, comedy, and entertainment.